Cathy, this is Lunabird Book Club, and today I want to share with you a book review of a book that has really just reignited my passion for learning. And that book is The Know-It-All by A.J. Jacobs. So I picked up this book very randomly at the secondhand bookshop in Burnley Market Store, which is my new favourite place to be. And the cover just grabbed me. So it says up here, The Know-It-All, one man's humble quest to become the smartest person in the world. And that really intrigued me, so I picked it up. The back says this: part memoir and part education, or lack thereof, The Know-It-All chronicles A.J. Jacobs' hilarious, enlightening, and seemingly impossible quest to read the Encyclopedia Britannica from A to Z. To fill the ever-widening gaps in his Ivy League education, A.J. Jacobs sets for himself the daunting task of reading all 32 volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica. His wife Julie tells him it's a waste of time, his friends believe he is losing his mind, and his father, a brilliant attorney who had once attempted the same feat and quit somewhere around Borneo, is encouraging but unconvinced. And that was enough to get me to pick up the book. This took me a couple of weeks to read, but I really enjoyed the experience of reading this memoir. It's very cleverly set out in chapters that go from A to Z. And, still got the bookmark in. And each chapter is broken into little topics that talk about the things that he's reading about. So you'll get a mixture of facts about different topics that are listed alphabetically, intermingled with his reaction to learning about that subject, and intermingled again with the story of this year of his life. And actually there's quite a lot going on in his life as he does this challenge. So him and his wife Julie are struggling with infertility. He has this rivalry with his brother-in-law, who is very, very smart. He is a reporter. What is he a reporter of? For Empire? I feel like I should know this. Esquire. So his day job whilst he's doing this, he was an editor for Esquire magazine. So he has a foot in the world of celebrity and film and entertainment, and glimpses into that world are very entertaining too. And it was written in like 2003, 2004. So it's also like a time capsule of that year. And all those things together make a really engaging story. Oh, and I should say also alongside that, this challenge gets A.J. Jacobs thinking about what it means to be intelligent or smart, and what's the difference between being knowledgeable and intelligent, or the difference between intelligent and wise. So alongside this quest of reading the encyclopedia, he uses his credentials as a journalist to track down and speak to other people who are renowned for their intellect. Or for their knowledge. So he tracks down game show champions and asks them their tips. He becomes a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire to put his newfound knowledge to the test. And he reflects a lot on what does all this new knowledge that he's gained, is it influencing his life? He speaks to old teachers, he has conversations with his father, he joins Mensa and goes to their conferences. He goes to conferences on crossword puzzle solving, and he just spends a year looking at this question of intelligence and wisdom and knowledge, and it's really, really interesting. And on top of all of that, it's really funny. I underlined so much of this book just with things that entertained me or interested me. I would say the tone of this book is very, very witty, and that's partly why I found it so entertaining. So like, for example, the little section on berserkers says this: savage Norse soldiers from the Middle Ages who, it said, went into battle naked. Hence, going berserk. So to truly go berserk, you should take off your pants. Noted. That just made me smile. So I'd say that this book kind of has three strands going through it. There's interesting facts gleaned from the Britannica, and You know, he notes the tragic and the ridiculous and the profound. And if you just want lots of little bits of trivia, this is a great book. The second chord is like the memoir of what's going on in his personal life. And at the start, that is all quite light-hearted, but as you get more into the middle and towards the end of the book, those life stories become a lot more sincere and have a lot more depth to them. And on one hand, it's not that anything really dramatic happens, but the more he reflects on his relationship with his wife and family and friends, there's just some really sincere, beautiful moments in there. And that's quite a beautiful human heart to this book. And then the third thing is reflections on wisdom and intelligence and the dividing line between them. So all those three together make it quite a thought-provoking book, but it's never too in your face or heavy because the next little bit of factoid is coming up. And the style is just so witty. There's lots of self-deprecating humour in here. A lot of the jokes are aimed purely at the author himself. He's a lot more self-aware than he gives himself credit for in the book. The book's full of really funny instances where he's so now full of facts that he's learnt whilst reading the Britannica that he keeps trying to shoehorn them into conversations where they don't really belong, much to the confusion of the people around him, and that's quite funny to read about. But when the writing does go sincere, it really goes sincere, and there's some really beautiful passages towards the end of this that have stuck with me, and I underlined an awful lot of this book. I really enjoyed reading it, and by the end of it, you know, it's such a mammoth challenge to read all those volumes. It's something like 32,000 pages. And I felt by the end of it that I'd gone on that journey with the author. And it really just sparked in me a desire to learn things and to read more non-fiction books and to be interested and curious about the world. Part of the effect that this challenge had on the author's life was that he just started looking around him and realizing for every single object that surrounded him, there was a history behind it. There is somebody who, you know, came up with the idea, somebody who patented it. It probably was invented at one time, and its invention was probably inspired by the events of history. And you know, somebody else was creating it right now, and that person would have a history, and that person would have been born in a city, and that city might have had architects, and do you know what I mean? Like, everything is connected, and everything is a result of a massive amount of thought and energy and history and science, and it's all combined together. And if you really start thinking about how this world exists, it'll blow your mind. Reading his reflections on that just made me think, yeah, the world's amazing and I'd like to know more about it. I also particularly enjoyed that it's quite a time capsule of the 2000s, and especially, I don't know if that's a trigger warning or not, you know, an editor for Esquire in 2000s, his humour does not match the political correct tones of today. So there were a couple of instances that did like kind of make me cringe. But also I just enjoyed the nostalgia of, you know, him and his wife are working their way through West Wing whilst it was coming out. And, you know, at the beginning, he's talking about the encyclopedia suffered a bit from the .com fad craze. You know, this encyclopedia is trying to adapt to the world of the internet. So was creating CD-ROM versions of the encyclopedia. And I mean, now I don't know who has encyclopedias now, whether they're still going. I'm sure they are. So yeah, I'm now a little bit curious to see how encyclopedias are doing now in the day of internet. Do people still buy book encyclopedias? Would they just be horrendously out of date the moment they're printed? I don't know. But there is some reflection in here about how the internet and modern technology has influenced this world of learning and knowledge. In fact, there's some really interesting bits where at times he's questioned what he's read in the Britannica against other sources. Like, for example, the logo on Lacoste was meant to be a crocodile because the founder was nicknamed the Crocodile. But the encyclopedia said at one point it was a crocodile and then it got turned into an alligator. The company website said it was an alligator, but when he called up a publicist for the cost, they were like, no, it's a crocodile. So then I Googled it afterwards and it is a crocodile. But just interesting to know that even back then in the early 2000s, like checking your sources and getting an accurate answer was difficult, even for an editor at, you know, a national magazine, international magazine. It wasn't an easy thing to double check your sources. I wonder how much more difficult it is now of knowing what sources you can trust in the world to get your facts, and how important facts are to build your knowledge and wisdom. Like I say, this is a book that has got me thinking, but it was also thoroughly entertaining and beautifully heartwarming. And honestly, by the end of this book, I had a couple of tears in my eyes reading it, especially the passages about his family. It's really a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad I read it. And this is one of those where I would never have found it online, I don't think. I don't think this would be carried in my library anymore. I've never read an article about it. I imagine it made quite a big splash because it's, you know, it says national bestseller on here, but I haven't come across it. It doesn't come up on my online feeds. For me, this is a kind of book I'm only ever going to find in a little secondhand bookshop, browsing and just seeing what comes up. And I'm so glad for secondhand bookshops that carry obscure books that, you know, you don't know where they've come from. And then you find them and you read them and they really impact your life. And I love reading off the beaten track. Yeah, I feel like this book has enriched me and has made me want to go out and learn. Maybe not go out and try and read the entire encyclopedia, but to learn about things and be open-minded and to be curious. So yeah, highly recommend reading this if you can get your hands on a copy. This copy is going to go to my dad because I feel like my dad would also really enjoy reading this book and would have a good time with it. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Bye. Occupational disease. In the past, hatters often became ill because they used mercury salts to make felt out of rabbit fur. The mercury poisoning led to a mental deterioration known as erethism. Hence the phrase, mad as a hatter. Good to know. If I ever have kids, I'll make a little note in the margin of their Alice in Wonderland. On Casanova, it says, the famous 18th century Lothario ended his life as a librarian. Librarians could use that to sex up their image. So yeah, really funny, really good book. Read it. Goodbye.